And we are live. Hello, UK Crime Book Club. I'm having a blast already. Sandie Jones, thank you so much for joining us and coming to talk about the trade-off.
You are most welcome, Sam. Pleased to be here.
Really thrilled to have you. So, do you want to tell us a little bit? And I'll show off my copy because you're not at home today, are you?
No. Yes, there it is. There it is.
What
Beautiful. Yes. So you want to know about it? What it's all about?
Tell us a bit about it. Yeah.
So this is probably I think it is my most favourite book to date. Not just to write, but because it is set on the news floor of the globe. It's a kind of deep dive into journalism, which for my sins I used to be. And so it's set on the news floor of the globe, and which is a tabloid newspaper, and it tells the story of two very different journalists. Stella is the unscrupulous kind of deputy editor, and she's built her reputation on never knowing when to stop for a story. You know, there is not a line that she won't cross. But for Jess, our other female lead, she's a rookie reporter, and her moral compass is always tipping in the right direction, as it were. And as far as she's concerned, the story stops when the truth does. She's appalled at the tactics, that Stella and the newspaper employ, never more so than when she's unwittingly caught up in a sting, which leads to a celebrity taking her own life because of, the lies that have been told about her. And unable to deal with that on her conscience, Jess is determined to hold the newspaper accountable. She wants to right the wrongs, and she wants to change the media landscape once and for all. But Stella won't give up without a fight. And Jess has to decide whether the truth is really worth dying for.
Now that is quite a spiel you've got for that. You have rehearsed that very well.
Is that wrapping it up? Is that kind of
and it doesn't give anything away either, which is just probably not an easy thing to do.
I'm terrible at spoilers, actually. So you are going to have to keep a very.
I will rein you in if we go to spoil anything.
I just can't. Yeah, so you do have to you're going to have to pull me back if I kind of start, saying too much.
So if I start waving at you and going no, then
exactly
too far. So before we got started tonight, I said to you that I'd said to my husband, this is the absolute definition of a page turner. Anyone who wants something that they are going to whiz through and still remember every detail, this is the book for them.
Fabulous. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled with that. That's all I could possibly ask for. And also you obviously read a lot, so you're used to being
right.
Okay. So
small amount.
Right. So to say that to be able for you to say that it's you're still able to find page turners, and this is one of them, is very exciting indeed for me. Yeah.
Glad to hear it. The hardest thing I think I'm going to struggle with is talking about Jess and Stella without feeling like I'm being catty, because I feel like these are women that I've met and that I know, and that you kind of feel like you're being a bit backstabby talking about them. But one needs to calm down a hell of a lot, and one needs to wise up.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I think both of those things probably happen throughout the story to a degree.
Yeah, I think so. And I think they have their arc, don't they? They kind of both go on a journey, and they're not quite the same people. Well, they're certainly not the same people as they started out. Let's put it that way. Yeah, things change them. Though whether for the good or the bad, we can't possibly say. But things definitely change them. Yeah.
We've got. So I've just spotted a comment that from Karen. Hi, Karen. That says Stella, OMG.
Is that a good OMG or is that a bad OMG?
Karen, we need to talk about this book.
You've got. I mean,
you absolutely do.
You've got to hate her, haven't you? I mean, you've got to, but equally, she is very representative of some characters still, unfortunately, that are out there in the media today, as we can see.
There's far more depth to Stella, though, because she's got this, people talk about like a tough outer shell,
Yes.
But she wants what, what most people or many people want. She wants a softness to her life that she's just not willing to let in, because she's seen what life's like and she knows what it's about, and she doesn't want to be kind of putting herself in a vulnerable position.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Which
I think
I'm sure we can all relate to that.
yeah. And I think it depends on, on your circumstances and those people that are surrounding you or are around you. They're going to make a difference to who you become as a person. And I think that's what's happened to Stella. I think, I think, as you say, that inner part of her that's looking for something, I think that's kind of what's always been there. And I think that's probably her true character. But because of the situation that she's put herself in and the pressure that she's actually come under from, the tabloid that she works for and everything that goes with it, I think it's kind of, I think it's obviously changed her hugely as a person. But I agree, Sam. I think, you're right. I think how she probably started out is exactly that inner feeling that she still has somewhere in there, but it's just been eroded. It's just been eroded by circumstance and those around her.
I've just suddenly got an image of this scene in my head where Jess and Stella are at this hotel of the celebrity that you mentioned.
Yes.
And Jess has had to kind of run across town from her parents' house from, I don't know if it was Sunday lunch. She was there having a meal.
Yeah.
And she turns up and she's not in the most glamorous of outfits. And she walks in and Stella's kind of done up to the nines and looks her up and down. And I just kind of think, that's how everybody must look at me when I walk into a room. Wasn't expecting to get out of the car chic.
Me too, honestly. I'm much happier in my jeans and a sweat top than anything else. It's but that's very true. Actually, she does. She gives her that look, doesn't she? Which we've all had.
Some women, of us more than most.
Women do try to be kind to each other most of the time, but every now and again you just kind of get a look and you think, oh, that's all I needed. But yeah, she's Stella obviously has Jess is very much the underdog in every sense, as far as Stella's concerned, and even as far as what she looks like, her appearance, how she behaves, how she conducts herself. Jess is very, very much the underdog in Stella's eyes, isn't she?
Yeah, she walks in on the first day, Jess, this is, and, kind of convinces Max, who is the editor, Stella's the deputy editor, for anyone who hasn't read it yet. And I think Stella is never going to be a fan of somebody who she feels like needs babysitting, but Jess really wants to prove herself and prove that she doesn't need babysitting, but she has no idea what she is walking into. As much as she thinks at 25 that she has it all together and understands it, she really just has the rug taken out from under her.
Yeah. And I think again, a lot of us are in that situation in our lives. But I think in Jess's particular situation, to go from kind of a friendly, cozy local rag, as it were, who really, their biggest excitement is when a cat gets stuck up a tree, to dealing with the characters and, as I say, the pressure that is put upon you on a tabloid, a national tabloid newspaper. It's huge. And I just don't think, I think she completely underestimated what that was going to be like, and clearly underestimated kind of the moral stance that she was needing, or that she was expected to kind of just push aside, because there are no morals in that game at that level. And I think that's what starts Jess off onto a bit of a slide, really, doesn't she? I mean, she's just kind of gripping on for dear life, trying to kind of hold back the tide. But she just needs, as you say, she needs to decide whether she wants to prove herself or whether she's going to just stick to her ethics. And you can't do both in that environment.
It's quite murky on both sides, isn't it? Because I suppose there are people who caught the tabloids, who caught the journalists.
In terms of celebrities, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
There must be people who know just how good it is going to be for them to be seen walking out. I mean, there's always pictures of Rihanna. I love Rihanna. She's constantly got a glass in her hand. She'll be leaving a venue with a glass, and Graham Norton was interviewing, she was saying, oh, I think I took that one in with me, actually. I don't think I was stealing that one. Or, oh, somebody took it back. Or she knows how to manage them in a
Yes.
way that suits her. But I feel like
Yeah.
she's not desperately clinging to anything. She's not a 15-minuter. It must be very, very difficult if you're starting out and you want to be promoted in the press, but you're trying to find that line between who you are and who this character you're playing is. It must be so easy to fall in between, the cracks of where the moral line should be and just going along with things before you realise you've probably gone too far.
Yeah. I mean, I think it must be very difficult to play the game well. I think it must be because as you say, going into something, going into the spotlight, into the public eye, that must be difficult in itself, enough in itself. But then to have to deal with how you play the press and how you play the media. Obviously, some do it brilliantly to their advantage, and it works really well. But I think in the most part, it's an impossible situation to be in, because you can, unfortunately, in Britain, we tend to kind of build celebrities up, or those in the public eye, we kind of build them up, put them on a huge pedestal, and then we just wait for them to get there and we just kind of flick them off. And that's kind of what we tend to do at home, isn't it, in England? And that's not changing. That's, I thought when I wrote this book, it was kind of inspired by a well-known TV personality who didn't feel that she could carry on because of the scrutiny that she was under. And that was obviously a few years ago now. And I honestly thought that by the time this came out, that it wouldn't be nearly as relevant. I didn't think it was going to be current. I thought things would have changed so much in that time period that this, people almost would read this and just not believe it. But, unfortunately, it just feels, it's even more bloody relevant, excuse my French, now than it was then. You've got all this situation with Kate a few weeks ago, Middleton, and it's just, they just do not give up, do they? They do not. And it doesn't matter, I don't think anymore. It doesn't matter how much you give them as a celebrity or a personality, they're still going to want more. Not all of them. I'm not putting them all under the same umbrella, but certain journalists and certain kind of outlets are always going to want more. And I don't know what the answer is. Honestly, I don't know how that stops, because we've had all the inquiries, haven't we? We've had and nothing changes. Nothing changes. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm assuming, we won't mention names, but I'm assuming I know who you were talking about, because there is a certain lady that I thought of when I was reading this book. Right. And you can't help but feel for people, because it must be, imagine never being able to go on your phone because you're the main story. Can't just go and flick through the internet looking at daft things. You can't just look for cute pandas rolling down a slide. It's your face. You open your phone and it's your face that's there.
And
I cannot imagine.
And hasn't it changed even between, just going to the newsstand or to the newsagents and buying a newspaper? That's the only place you do see it. To now, as you say, we've got the phones and the iPads and the tablets, and there is no, even in your bedroom, even in the privacy of the bath, or anywhere, there's no way that the consumer can kind of escape it. So imagine how it must feel to actually be the subject of it. I mean, it just doesn't bear thinking about. Yeah,
no,
it doesn't bear
not one little bit.
No.
Judith Graham said, "Good evening, Sandie," and me too. Hi, Judith. Are your books a series or standalone? You're a new author to me, and I'm intrigued by your new book. So, tell us what you've done so far since you left journalism.
Yes, so they're all standalone, Judith. They are. This is my 6th book. The Other Woman was my debut.
I've just ordered that.
Have you? Okay, so is the trade-off the first one of mine that you've read then?
It is, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm working my way through now.
Oh, okay. So you're going to start at the beginning?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yes. So The Other One was my debut, and Crazy, that was picked up by Reese Witherspoon as one of her monthly picks, which is totally insane. Still as insane now as it was even then. Crazy. And that was kind of, I I suppose it's essentially it's a love triangle. Emily and Adam are, you know, everything's going, they meet, they fall in love, everything's going along tickety-boo, until this other woman presents herself. And she's not quite who you'd expect her to be, because she's his mother. And she causes absolute carnage. And Emily just has to kind of navigate her way through that relationship, and just to try and find out why Pammy, the mother-in-law, as it were, is seemingly out to get her and cause so much havoc. Pammy was a brilliant character to write. She's properly evil, but we need to find out why, and so that's the kind of journey that Emily goes on. But yeah, so that was the other woman, and all of the others since have been kind of obviously suspense drama. I don't think they're necessarily. You'd probably be best to answer this. I don't think they're necessarily thrillers, are they, Sam? I think there
are thrilling aspects to them, because you have got kind of this is the bit where I just judge what I'm about to say on spoiler level, because I hate spoilers.
I'd rather you than me. Go on.
There are action scenes and there are things that really ramp up the tension, and that in itself is thrilling.
Right.
And it is. And like I said right at the start of the interview, I'd said to my husband, this is the definition of a page turner. In that respect, it is thrilling. But just as if it was just going to be categorized as a thriller, no.
Right. Yes. Okay. No, I think that's a very fair, appraisal. Yeah. I wouldn't class mine as thrillers. I think thrillers are, where it's literally kind of heart in the mouth, kind of
the whole time. Yeah.
And that's not what my books are. I think they're just, I hope that they're thought provoking. I hope that they're really relatable.
Absolutely.
And I guess they're just kind of, they're ordinary people who have extraordinary things happen to them. I guess it's kind of that's kind of the snapshot of all my books, I guess.
Which is one of my favourite things in books, I have to say. The idea that anybody could just be thrown into this situation is terrifying, but it makes for a really bloody good read.
But I do think that let me just think. I don't think there's anything, I've written about family members and friends and workplace and romance, and I don't think there's any situation or any book that we couldn't possibly find ourselves in. We could be, any of us could be in any of them. And that's what I really like writing about. I love relationships, and I love getting under the skin of all those characters, and and just seeing that kind of arc from the beginning to where they end up at the end. I love that. As a reader as well as a writer.
Yeah. I won't ask if you've based any of the characters on anybody specific. I will ask, does anybody in your life think a character is based on them, whether it is or isn't?
Everyone. Absolutely everyone. Even the woman in the newsagents. Everybody thinks that they're in my books. And again, I love that. I just think I could completely go with it. I mean, most of them aren't, but there are quite a few that are. I wouldn't quite say who they are.
I was going to say, have you ever admitted to any of them? I'm not asking you to do it on camera, but have you ever admitted to any of them that actually, this person was a little bit of you?
Yes, I think a few people close to me know that, because it's even my husband. He can't, he'll be sitting there reading like a first early draft, and I just kind of get the side eye across, and he's like, right, okay. But I remember saying that to you 6 months ago. I actually said that line to you, and so we have those kind of silly conversations. But Pammy, in The Other Woman, who's the mother-in-law character, we've not discussed it, but I think she knows who she is. But we've not kind of had those as much as conversation, because I wouldn't want to, because you need to read The Other Woman. You just wouldn't want to have that conversation. I think she knows. I do think she knows. It's impossible not to. It's so obvious.
That is quite brave. Did you tone up or tone down Pammy in any way?
She actually started out, that the whole book, Sam, actually started out, because it was my first, and I was just going to go for it. I didn't know what I was doing, never done it before. I thought I'm just going to just do it for me, because I think we've all got a book in us. And it was just something on my list I just wanted to tick off and say, right, I've done that. I can put it to bed. So the other woman started out actually as a bit of a comedy, because I just kind of loved that sort of stereotypical mother-in-law kind of vibe. And it started off really quite kind of comical and funny. And then just the more and more, as I got into it more and more, she just started becoming really sort of sinister and really quite, the things that started out as funny really weren't funny anymore. You know, she became quite evil, the things that she did. So it kind of went from something completely different so I wasn't intending to write a kind of suspense or anything. It just kind of happened that way. And now here I am 6 books later still doing it.
So when you get a call to say, or how did it happen? In fact, let's start with that. You find out, where are you and when was it that you found out that Reese Witherspoon has chosen your book?
Well, it's not very glamorous, actually.
Not all the best stories aren't glamorous. Nobody wants you to be sipping champagne and fed grapes and being fanned. And well, maybe we do a little bit, because that'd be nice for you, I'm sure. But
I did
tell me that
I went and did all that
at the supermarket.
I was thankfully out, happened to be out with my agent for lunch, which again, that's all glamorous, lovely. We're having a lovely lunch. The other woman had been out in America for about 3 months, I think, by then. And it kind of wasn't doing, America were really, really enthusiastic about the book. And, you know, they bought it really quite quickly. And so that was all a bit of a whirlwind. And it just felt 3 months on that it hadn't really done what they were hoping it was going to do in America. So I remember having this conversation with my agent at lunch, and I was saying, no, I think they're really disappointed. And what can we do to kind of, you know, give it a bit of a oomph? And so we're having all that. Went to the toilet. A pair of us have gone into a cubicle. We've come out. She's like looked at me with her phone in the hand. She said, have you seen your emails? I went, no. I said, I've just been to the toilet. I haven't had time to go to my phone. She said, you need to read your emails. So I kind of just sort of blindly went through it, and I couldn't see what she was talking about. And she said, Reese Witherspoon's picture book. And I honestly, I mean, even saying it now kind of gives me goosebumps. What a ridiculous scenario to have. You know, I'd written this book without, you know, even my mother or husband, you know, I wasn't expecting them to read it. So to find out that Reese Witherspoon, who's a huge heroine of mine anyway, that she's read it and she's bloody picked it. I mean, it was ridiculous. So I burst into tears. She burst into tears, and then we went for a drink. But also I remember having an Ocado delivery that night. And because obviously we'd had lunch and I was going home to get the shopping in, we then scrubbed that because we're now all completely fizzed up. I can't go home. We need to go and celebrate. And I just remember having this like random trying to go onto my phone to try and cancel my Ocado order or move it a few hours later. And I just thought, like, just let the bloody Ocado come. If I'm not in, I'm not in. You know, and it was a really odd situation. Yeah. So we were in the toilets. I was worried about my Ocado order, and it was completely surreal. I think that's probably, my mindset was I just didn't believe it. It was nuts, wasn't it? It was ridiculous.
Do you believe it yet?
No, I don't believe any of this, Sam. This is, you don't even need to leave this conversation with the book behind you. It's just I don't believe any of it. It's I think that the kind of the imposter syndrome actually gets worse rather than better, actually, as time goes on. Because
well, that's disappointing to hear.
You just kind of keep thinking, I can't continue getting away with this. You know what? I'm going to get found out. This is just going on too long now. It's, you know, but I think we all suffer from that at some point, don't we?
I'd say most people, yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll leave that comment right there. Mentioning no names about characters in the trade-off.
No, good idea.
Really can't. But once you've all read it, you'll know. Judith said, "Thank you, Sandie. We'll order the trade-off after this. It's my birthday, so another present to me from me." Oh, it's her birthday tomorrow. So happy birthday for tomorrow,
birthday.
Judith, and happy reading. There is another comment from somebody that said, just bought The Other Woman, looking forward to reading it, but I've got no name and I can't find it. So please tell me who you are.
I can't see any comments. Am I supposed to, Sam?
We didn't talk about what device you're on before we got started.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. No, that's
So
all right.
what-
As long as you can see them.
Are you on a laptop or are you on
a laptop? Yeah.
You should have comments down the right-hand side. I'm not sure why you haven't.
Oh, hold on.
Is there a button to click?
Hey,
Have you just found all of the comments?
found it.
Now, for everybody thinking, Sam, you're rubbish, you didn't tell Sandie. What was
I just found that's clever.
Hello, JP.
Hello, everyone.
Normally I'd give you the talk before we do it. This is where the comments will appear, but we were just laughing so much we never really got to it. So
no, that's my fault. I didn't. So okay, so there's private chat and comments. Right, didn't realise that. Okay, great.
So now you can see everyone.
Brilliant.
So JP is an author called Jonathan Peace. So I'm assuming that I've got the right JP. Although there's another author who doesn't write crime, who's called James Pearce. So could be either one of them.
Reveal yourself.
So I have two JPs. So we'll see. So you were a journalist for a long time. Is this the kind of thing that drove you out of the profession?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I think this in a nutshell is it. It kind of much like Jess, actually, and can I just also state for the record, I am much more Jess than I am Stella as a journalist and as a person.
I'm quite happy to say that I am too, as much as kind of on the surface of Stella you think driven and, you know, all of these amazing, tenacious qualities, actually. I'm very much a Jess.
Yeah, I'm much more Jess, and I'm very proud to say that I'm much more Jess as a journalist as well in terms of my moral standing. And like her, I kind of started out sort of on the friendly magazines, you know, the women's weeklies and that kind of thing. And it was always I sort of specialised in celebrity interviews, and it was always for those kind of magazines what I wrote and what I reported on was what went in the magazine. That was it. So that's absolutely fine. It was always exactly in their words. You know, I never kind of put words in their mouth or kind of took anything out of context. But as kind of my career progressed and I started working for the Nationals and some tabloids, it just started getting muckier and muckier. And, you know, rightly or wrongly, my loyalty was always to my interviewee. You know, I didn't want to upset anybody. It's not part of my nature. I just wanted to promote what they wanted to promote and talk about it. But the tabloids just always need a different angle and a different slant, and they would start taking their comments or my copy. They start sort of pulling out the headline that had no context to what we were actually talking about, you know, and they would it would be all inflammatory and all kind of clickbait. And I just kind of went from having really good relationships with celebrities who trusted me to, you know, getting to the point where they're ringing me up and really upset about something I've supposedly written. And so that kind of was, you know, I put up with that for, you know, I don't know, maybe 18 months, 2 years, I guess, in the end. And then I just thought, it's not what I want to be. It's not what I want to do. So I've pulled the plug on it altogether. And I miss it. I miss the chats. I really, really miss, you know, I met fabulous people, you know, real legends, really talented people. And I just miss those inspiring conversations, you know, but I can't see how I'd ever go back to it, Sam, to be honest. I just don't think, unless the media landscape changed completely, I can't see that I would ever go back.
I suppose when there's not enough good people fighting the fight, then, you know, the muck is going to win.
But I think there are a lot of good people fighting the fight, and it's just, and I think the majority of them are good people, but for some reason, you know, those one or two baddies are still able to kind of call the shots because they have the power to do so. And so until that changes,
Yeah.
the amount of good people and good intentions are going to make the difference, unfortunately.
And I suppose the people who are making the money are always going to go with the people who are going to make them the money in whatever way. You said nothing was off limits, so I want to be careful how I word this, but you did mention stings. Does that kind of thing really happen? Are there really kind of, because we see things like that portrayed as stings. So, for example, I won't name any shows because I don't want to get into trouble, but we'll see things where secret cameras will be set up to record conversations, and you'll see maybe random things pulled out the air, a footballer by trying to do a deal for something, or that kind of thing. I want to be really careful not to go with anything that I know has been done.
Yeah.
That kind of sting really happens where it's set up to look a certain way rather than set up to catch the truth. This is the kind of thing that we're dealing with behind the scenes.
Yes.
That's terrifying.
Yes, absolutely. And it's, and I would like to say, as I say, I've been out of it now for 5 or 6 years, and I would like to say that kind of setup doesn't happen anymore. But I know for an absolute fact that it always that was happening all the time. Everything that's pretty much everything that is in the book has happened at some point in the past in real life. Yeah. And as I say, I do hope that it's not going on to that degree anymore, and I hope that we've got more in place to stop it. But I would imagine behind the scenes still there's all kinds of sort of skullduggery still going on to just try and it's not even getting the truth out of people, is it? It's manipulating them to such a point where they think they're there for one reason, and then they would go all out to, for example, there's obviously in the book there's a situation where you'll be invited to go up for a role in a big film or something like that, and they will a journalist could court you for a very long time and groom you, essentially. I mean, for want of a better word, because they are, manipulating you. They're giving you everything that you want to hear in the hope that you want what they've got so badly that you're prepared to do anything to impress them and to get to give them what they want. And that's where, and that's not who they really are. They're just trying to get the job, as it were. They're just trying to do whatever they can to impress the person that's manipulating them. And it's destroyed lives. It's financially, reputations. God forbid it goes so far as they don't see any other way out. That's happened a lot. And court cases have been brought to court, and they have, certain journalists again have been found to be guilty and have been imprisoned. But I think it's still not changing enough, is it? It's still not it's not making a difference, not enough of a difference.
No, and it's a really tricky one when we're seeing lots of documentaries and things. I don't know we don't really go into politics here, so I won't quote anything real, but I recently watched, in fact, I spent my Sunday evening kind of locked away by myself thinking, right, I'm going to go and watch this thing that I've seen on Netflix, and it was relating to, let's just say, a palace scandal. We won't go any further. So I've watched a kind of fictionalized but realistic version of the documentary about it. Right. And then I went and watched the actual interview with this person and a wonderful female journalist who I thought was very fair, did not kind of do anything unscrupulous and tried to be quite keeping the line of, like you were saying, being kind of kind to people and trying to keep promises and treating somebody who maybe doesn't, deserve to be treated as fairly as she did. She treated them very fairly. And then I went and watched an interview with her about the interview that she'd done. And
Right.
there's so much that you kind of learn just in one thing from the different angles that things are shown.
Yeah. Yeah. But isn't that kind of true, don't you think, of like all these kind of like even reality series, with Big Brother, and it's just all about, and it's the same thing, I guess, Sam, isn't it? It's how things are edited. It's so we could consume a program, as you say, from two completely different angles, and get have such a different opinion
Yeah.
each time, couldn't we? And I think it's the same for a lot of stuff that we consume, or media that we consume now. It's all down to how something is edited, and they, it's a very powerful thing, because they can create our opinions for us. They can kind of, they can kind of call the shots. It's a very, and we're kind of there for it. This is the thing, isn't it? We're there to kind of we just want more and more. And it's like, I mean, who's at fault then? I guess, you could kind of ask that question, are they at fault for kind of just feeding us this kind of unrealistic narrative, or are we at fault for kind of just still showing up for it? It's because we do still all kind of consume, the clickbait. We still kind of watch the reality TV shows, knowing that, there's a real, or could be a real kind of twist on what's actually going on. It's a real, it's bloody modern day, really. It's modern day life for you, isn't it? I guess
It's difficult because a lot of the time we forget that we're treating real life as entertainment.
Yeah.
So I have absolutely no guilt in reading the trade-off. I'm really thoroughly enjoying myself. But it's not quite the same when you're watching something real, or it shouldn't be. And I think that's kind of the problem, isn't it? When people forget that, and I've been guilty of it. I've really enjoyed something and then sat back afterwards and really questioned my own reaction to something that I really shouldn't feel that was there for my enjoyment, even though that's how it's been presented. But this horrible thing has happened to a person or people, and we're treating it as enjoyment and a pleasurable thing.
And I think made worse, obviously, by our access to social media now, because it's not even something that you would just say to one friend the next day after a TV program or something. It's, we all kind of pass straight on social media, and it just becomes this huge kind of witch hunt, really, doesn't it? If it's, yeah, I still do not understand, and this is a slightly different topic, but I don't understand how or why people would go onto social media if they've got, I'm very much, if you've got nothing nice to say, why don't say it? Why would you say it? But I don't understand. There seems to be an awful lot of people that are quite happy to get on the soapbox, and just, again, it just forms opinions that aren't true and aren't fair of someone we don't know.
Yeah, I think if you're stating that it's your opinion, you have to kind of look at where your information came from.
Yeah.
And how accurate that was, or probably wasn't.
Yeah, and those lines are blurred, aren't they? All the time, even more so now than they ever have been.
And you're right, I don't see how we unblur them.
No, I don't. And that's just going to be down to human nature, isn't it? And something kind of clicking in the people that do find it kind of worthwhile going on social media to make those kind of judgment calls, or I think that's down to them, really. Try and maybe look at themselves and ask themselves why they would do that.
Yeah, agreed. So you moved over from journalism. You've been writing for a few years. What were the biggest surprises, good or bad, for you when you completely changed? It must be, in some ways, a calmer life, but in other ways, not so much.
Much calmer. But it's what I think has always interested me or intrigued me, actually, is that I certainly, because I was a journalist, and so everything had to be fact, and I was never, in any of my pieces, I was never allowed to put my own stamp on it because they were somebody else's words. So, you know, I didn't have that capacity to put my own kind of stamp on it. So to move from that to fiction, I think a lot of people just go, oh, well, you know, you were always a journalist, so fiction must be easy. But actually, I think I was almost at a slight disadvantage because I've always been so kind of restricted in how I thought and what I wrote that I just didn't think that. And I think that's probably why I also put off writing fiction for so long, is because I just didn't think I was going to be able to do it, or that I was going to be certainly any good at it. Because I'm not used to letting my imagination run riot. So for me, the biggest surprise was as soon as I kind of took that switch off and just kind of took off with my imagination, just went to places that I had no idea I was even capable of. It's like even in The Other Woman, you know, it started off as kind of a little funny kind of, you know, sort of sing-songy kind of book, and it just turned into this really dark monster that, you know, even my husband sleeps next to me with one eye open. He just does not get how I kind of where this comes from, and nor do I. And that's kind of been the biggest surprise for me, going from one career to the other. Just being, but saying that the freedom, or how I feel so liberated now when I'm writing fiction, because I could just do anything, I can say anything, I can create anything. And that's really liberating for me, and just so different from what I've been used to for like 20 odd years. It's brilliant. I love it.
What can we expect from book 7? I just love how enthusiastic and happy you are when you talk about your life. That's just amazing.
Every author must be like this, surely. We're very, very lucky people. It's crazy. But sorry, book 7. Yes, book 7 takes us back to the 80s. So I'm just working on that at the moment.
Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm really loving this. It takes. I was a huge granny, to the point where, I kind of definitely stalked them. If we're going to be honest, I definitely trailed them all up and down the country, and was a complete pest and nuisance. So I'm kind of using a lot of that, of my own experience, into this kind of sort of stalking of a band in the 80s, and the consequences of something happening back then, and how that kind of, and switching between the 80s and the present day to see how those consequences have played out, you know, all these years later. So I'm really enjoying sort of delving into the 80s and kind of really sort of reading back over all my diaries, going through all my kind of photos and things like that. Has been fabulous. So that's going to be out, I guess, this time next year. Oh, God. It feels ages away. Yes, and this time next year that will be out. And it's titled at the moment is I Would Die For You, which is obviously a bit of the Prince song as well of that time. So yeah, it's going all right. It's going all right. I'm enjoying it.
Have you had all the music on?
Yes. I've been dancing around my office.
You need to get you some fluorescent leg warmers.
But it's so cool just to go back and do all that research, because obviously if you lived in it, you've kind of, it's all been there, but just to get those kind of little, you know, just to go back, do a little bit of research and just have something kind of click in your mind that takes you straight back to a time and a place. And I've just loved it. It's so fascinating just to think. Also what I'm also really enjoying is the fact that a thriller or a suspense set in the 80s is very, very different to writing now, because, you know, we had nothing really to track. We had no way to find out things. We, you know, just and so to strip back all that technology that we have now and just to go back to basics makes it a really very different book and a very different writing experience. So I'm interested. I'm excited to explore all that, and I'm really interested in seeing how this goes and where it ends up.
Have you been able to use some of your own experiences so far
in this book? Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of me in this one. Yeah. Way more than I'd care to admit, actually. Yeah, there's real kind of parallels. You know, even some of the actual scenes where, again, I shouldn't admit this, but where I remember kind of breaking into the BBC because Duran Duran were on a Saturday morning live TV show and things like that. And, you know, there's unfortunately lots of of my own personal instances that I can recall quite all too easily. So they're actually all in there at the moment. So whether they stay in there or not, I'm not sure. Whether I'll be brave enough to actually put it out there in the world. But there's quite a lot of me in there already.
I remember ringing a radio station as a kid. It must have been probably early 90s, and asking them could they play a song again because I didn't hit record early enough on my tape recorder. So you breaking into the BBC makes me feel just as vanilla as I told my kids I was.
But it's exactly that, isn't it? It's that kind of, when you talk to your kids and you say, we top 40 on a Sunday night or whatever, and you kind of press your play and record on your tape recorder, and you'd be gutted, and you try and time it so you didn't get the DJ talking over it, or you need to. It's just, my kids look at me as if I'm completely insane, and but it's gone to created a lot of interesting conversations even between us. It's because they just don't believe it. They just don't believe that how I lived was even possible. It's, the whole kind of arranging to meet somebody. You arranged to meet them and you had to be there. There was no option. You couldn't just move it, or you couldn't change it, or when your friends rang up, they'd ring on the house line, they'd have to speak to your parents, like excruciating. You'd be speaking to your best mate's dad or something for like, oh God, could you just get her on the phone, please? But they can't get their head around any of that. So it is funny. It is causing some interesting conversations.
And you sat on the stairs on the house phone because it's stuck to the wall with a little twisty cord, and then people are stepping over you to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
And like tutting at you, and you're tutting at them because I'm on the phone. How rude of you to leave the bathroom right now. You have to get past me. You have to get up.
And also I've written a scene even this morning actually where she's the extension phone or extension line upstairs, the other phone upstairs has kind of been picked up so they can hear your conversation. And it's things like that. You just think, how did that even happen? But it did, didn't it? You used to hear like a little click. And you kind of go, put the phone down, I'm on it.
Not at my house. We only had one phone, but
Oh, well, maybe I was posh then. I obviously
maybe you were posh. I think I do remember going to one of my auntie's houses, and they had an upstairs phone that was kind of like a smooth thing that was just the same size as the base, and it had the buttons on the actual receiver. Now that was fancy. Oh, that was fancy.
And then we went wireless, and you could just walk around with this kind of, with a little aerial on the top, couldn't you? You could just walk around the house with it. And it was like, what is this craziness? It's brilliant. I love it all.
I can't wait for this one. I can't wait to see what you put in and what we all recognise. What we all think, did that, been there, not admitting to that, but we did that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to create is a lot of that, a lot of kind of nodding, going, oh my goodness, yeah, can you believe we did that and we lived through that? That's exactly what I'm trying to create.
Love that. One of the things I wanted to ask is because when we get a lot of authors who are right at the start of the career, and it's quite a difficult thing when you get going. There's a lot of not really being sure how your work's going to be received, and people aren't sure how to handle it if something doesn't go well. You've had the absolute flip side of that. How on earth do you handle the success of debut book Reese Witherspoon?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I just don't know. Obviously, it was amazing and incredible, but I don't know as a person whether it kind of set me up in the best way, because, as you say, the pressure to get something like that on that recognition on your first book, it feels, as I say, I do suffer terribly from imposter syndrome already. So it just feels that you really have to. You've got a lot to live up to after that. And I'm not complaining. Please don't think I'm complaining for a second. No. But there are, as somebody said to me at the very beginning, that being an author is very much a marathon and not a sprint. And so I kind of had that in my mindset, thinking, okay, this is going to be a very slow burn, and it's going to take me years to get to where I'd like to be, whatever that is. I didn't kind of have it sort of fully formed in my head what that was, but so to have that kind of sort of recognition and that buzz, I think, around a debut is quite difficult. As wonderful as it is, I think it's quite difficult to kind of follow up on. But yeah, I'm still seemingly getting away with it. My second book was an absolute disaster in terms of it was a whole rewrite. You know, it was that whole kind of classic second book problem that I think also, you know, most authors suffer from or have to deal with and struggle with. It's just living up to, because I think it's so difficult, because I think every author's first book is you're writing it for yourself. You know, there's no pressure. There's no expectation. And so I think, you know, so once you then have that published, hopefully you get that published, and then your second one or any book there on in, you know, you're in a contract or you're in a relationship with a publisher and you have editors and things like that. So you have a lot of boxes to tick, and you're writing it for different reasons, I think, from after your first one. And I guess this happens to all authors. So you're kind of writing it for, you know, a target audience, I guess, from the second on. So and so I think that does it changes the process a lot, and it definitely piles on the pressure, and makes it a little bit more difficult to navigate, I would say. I think I'm beginning to suss it out now. I'm not sure. I think I'm beginning to suss it out and say the trade-off I absolutely loved. It was definitely my favourite to write. Maybe because I knew about a lot about it anyway, and also because I actually feel quite passionate about the subject. You know, and to say I wanted to kind of create something that did make the reader kind of as entertaining as I hope it is. I do also want to kind of provoke some kind of thought process that, you know, that what goes on is that, you know, is that right? Is it right that we are allowing this to still go on in this day and age? You know, so this one has been the easiest, apart from The Other Woman, my debut. This one has been the easiest to write, probably for those reasons.
I definitely think it's thought-provoking. I think you've entertained me, you've made me think, you've made me really like the women in the pages, and really kind of, you know, when you're kind of thinking, oh, like, I feel like I know these women, I feel like I'm being really unfair by being judgmental, because we all judge, but we try our best not to. We try our best to hopefully be kind to people.
Yeah.
But you can kind of see where the paths were going, and we're not going to talk about any of the ending at all. We're not going to do that. But I really felt quite protective of them.
Sorry, were you satisfied with the ending?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So it gave you everything that you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay.
I mean, we can't really go any further with that, can we? Just yes. And I really do like it. I don't expect all books to tie up in a neat little bow. None of, you know, but I do really love it when I feel satisfied at the end of reading one.
Right.
When I don't think, well, they wouldn't have done that. You know, that there was none of that. There was none of that at all.
Great. Okay. So
no, I was very satisfied with the entire book. Yeah.
Fabulous. That's music to my ears, Sam. Thank you.
And on that note, it's almost 8:00. So do you want to give us a final recap of the trade-off? I nearly called it the standoff then. The trade-off.
Probably the same thing, really, isn't it? Yeah, I think if you are even remotely interested in the media narrative and certainly the power of the media, which should never, ever be underestimated, then I hope and I think you're going to love The Trade-Off, because it goes deep dives behind the scenes, and it gives you characters that you're probably going to, you're probably not going to like Stella very much, but there are reasons for it, as Sam has already alluded to, and yeah, give her a chance. That's all I'll say. Give her a chance.
I think even if you don't think the media is going to be your thing, I think it's too interesting. You know, you start from the beginning. I read this in an entire Saturday.
Wow.
I don't know when the last kind of, I love books that keep you turning the page, but I think this was literally the definition of a page turner.
Oh,
So it's just, I think even if you don't think that, you know, the murky journalism side, or the murky side to some journalists, to be more accurate, is going to be your thing, I think you can't help but get caught up in it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Well, you've sold it for me, Sam. Thank you. You've done a much better job than I could do.
Well, thank you to everybody who's watched and asked questions, and to the people who will watch this on catch up as well. Hello to you if you watched on catch up, which can't have done yet, but you know, it'll be on our YouTube channel, so you can have a look. And thank you so much, Sandie. I'm absolutely thrilled. I've had the best hour.
Oh,
I just feel like my cheeks are aching from laughing.
It's gone really quick, hasn't it?
Thank you so much. I hope you'll come back for book 7.
Yes, of course. Anytime, please. That'd be great. Thanks you so much, everybody.